Hey, what's up? This is Zach here in Cannes. Super excited to be talking with Inder, who's the VP of Technology at D3. We're here at the developer house where they've been giving talks with different ETH developers. I heard that they're doing recruiting. The ecosystem is definitely growing, and so I'm super excited to be getting into the details here, really learning about what makes domains hot right now, sort of all of the momentum behind it, and getting to pick your brain. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me here.
Awesome. So I'll just get right into it. Can you tell us about sort of maybe your background a little bit, what your role entails at D3, and sort of the vision behind what we're doing today?
Definitely. Yeah, I think, so my name is Inder. I'm the VP of Product and Technology at D3, so run all of product and tech at D3. No, I've been an engineer for the past like 25 years. This is now my 7th startup, so I'm a sucker for pain.
We all are in Web3, seriously.
Exactly, but I think there is this like excitement that comes out of building startups that I think why we're here. And I think that's why I'm here at the Dev House. Our hope here is that, we're bringing like domains on chain. A lot of the innovation comes from like, being on chain in a Web3 platform, modernization, right? It's a mature industry. People are already buying and selling like millions and billions of dollars of names on a daily basis. But the industry is old, it's inefficient. So we're building a new platform to bring in so many more new developers, to kind of build against the industry, kind of innovate and bring new, more modern financial apps on chain. So as part of that, we're hosting this Dev Villa. We have, talks from a lot of our VC partners, product partners. We have like, a lot of core Ethereum developers speaking here. And the goal is like, hey, come learn about how can you tap into a new asset class and build brand new apps, using a real tangible asset on chain.
So can you talk about maybe like the domain aspect? Like what's the difference between like, let's say a Web3 domain versus a normal domain? Because we honestly this morning we were looking at domains or launching like a news site in addition to our X and media, and we were like, I'm honestly really curious to learn about that.
Yeah. And the way we see things, there's only a domain, right? So for example, when you type in Amazon.com, you never think twice. You know exactly where that's going to go. Same way, if I say chat.com, what do you think it's worth?
Couple million.
See, it doesn't matter. You knew it was worth something, right? It's very different from an NFT or an asset. A common person knows that a domain is worth something. Chat.com sold for quite a lot of money. In 2023 or 2024, one of our investors bought it for $15 million.
I was way low.
Yeah, and sold it to another company, OpenAI.
Oh, of course. They made a smart move.
Yep. So my point is that, domains, you don't need to teach anyone their value. I think all of us intrinsically know domains have values. We also don't want to reinvent the industry. DNS is fairly decentralized. Your DNS never goes down for a reason. You're also buying and selling names on a daily basis. So we want to keep that. But what we want to do is bridge it to Web3 in a manner that makes it DeFiable, or how we say domain-fiable, right? So an asset sitting in a registrar in your account basically now starts working on Web3. There is no new thing that we're doing. We're just unlocking this asset and making it usable on Web3. So just like Amazon.com works online, now it will work on blockchains. Whether it's like sending, receiving money, financializing it, leasing it, loaning it, whatever you want to do, now you'll be able to do it on chain.
Are sort of the key maybe adopters of this more individuals? Are they more companies? Are you seeing kind of a mix of both? Are you taking an enterprise approach, retail? I mean, everyone needs domains, of course, but...
Yeah. No, I think you said it yourself, right? I think our goal is to go after a pretty massive industry, right? I always say, I don't want to take over a small industry. I want to go after a big problem and dominate it. It's a pretty massive industry. Look at like, VeriSign, GoDaddy, billions of dollars of market cap in a traditional sense, right? So the industry is pretty massive, but as you kind of come into the end users, I think one will be, people looking for utility. Everyone who's ever started a company, the first thing you do is look for a domain. Like literally,
have a website.
There you go. You start up. I don't know if you have a .fm that you've bought, like for podcast. Like people, like one of our founders operates .xyz. So everyone's journey starts with that. But then once you do that, I think a lot of people realize that, wait, if it's so valuable, should I be investing in it? And so there's a lot of people, we call them domainers, who actually...
It's my co-founder. He just waits for
There you
someone
go.
not to renew and snipes.
Yeah, exactly. So people have come up with innovative strategies like sniping because they want to get alpha on this asset and jump in. So I would say we want to make it more democratic. Let's get a lot more domainers. Let's get it into a more transparent on-chain primitive so that people can come up with even better, crazier strategies to like monetize the industry.
Why should domains even be on-chain? I know you touched on this somewhat, but what would you say are the absolute key advantages, especially for a company that maybe isn't on-chain right now, like Amazon?
Yeah. Personally, I'm a very big fan of Web3 for like two reasons, right? One is like the true decentralization, right? You own your assets, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, you own your assets, right? That's one. But I think a second superpower of Web3 is actually the protocols themselves, right? Which is, as a developer, let's say today I want to build an application, and I make this joke, right? Can you think of a single tech startup that was built on domains? Zero.
No, maybe pets.com or something. That was a failed domain, but
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Why is that, right? So think, Zach, like let's say I am a developer.
Yeah.
I want to go build against it. I go look at GoDaddy stocks to build against GoDaddy's domains. Then I'll go to the next registrar. This is what kind of like Stripe solved back in the day, right? I remember when Stripe started, I saw the first product demo. What they were doing is you don't need to go work with 100 different providers. Just put the SDK and you're done. So what Stripe did is they kind of aggregated the whole like industry, right? That's what our goal is, right? Once you're on Web3, all registrars bring their domains in the same manner on chain with the same contracts, same primitives, same everything. As a developer, if you know how to use an ERC20 token or a ERC721, you're good to go. Because we've kind of ensured that those tokens comply with all the ICANN rules, comply with all the compliance, everything that needs to be done is taken care of. So as a developer, now you don't have to go like work with 10 different like name providers, 10 different APIs, 10 different this thing. So it just makes it more programmable, composable. Once you do that, then you unlock DeFi, right? Because, oh, I'm taking a loan. Do I need to worry who's custodying it on the registrar side? Can I go transfer the domain? Can I do this? Can I do that? Nope. As a developer, if you have an ERC20, you're good to go. You have a 721, you're good to go. We'll figure out the bridging on Web2 side. You never have to worry about it. And I think that will be why developers, standard access to the asset, standard access to like the users, standard access to the domains, standard access to the custody.
So, obviously there's a lot of momentum around different blockchains right now, and you mentioned ERC, and for our users, that's Ethereum based. Is this mainly an Ethereum focused play? Are you bridging to other blockchains? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. The other reason I love like crypto is because, innovation comes everywhere. One of our biggest partners in Solana, right? So the assets will be on Solana. So what we do is we use DOMA blockchain under the hood to synchronize assets across all different chains. So DOMA protocol has like a GMP, general message passing system, fancy terms. But the goal is basically let your assets securely move across chains. So think like, bridges within Web3. So as a Solana user, I should be able to use my asset on Solana, no different from Ethereum. So we're not Ethereum aligned or Solana aligned, we're blockchain aligned. We feel like innovation should win in all cases. And then the user or the developers kind of decide where the assets need to be. So, my personal belief is we're going to get like the next wave of Web2 users. They're not going to care whether I'm on Solana or Ethereum. they're going to say, where can I get the best applications? Where can I,
It's
tap
the
into?
front end, ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. The true first principles of a tech startup. How do I get the most out of my asset? And if that happens to be on Solana, the domain will get bridged on Solana. If it happens to be on Ethereum, the domain will be on Ethereum. But the quality of applications will decide the assets versus, anything else.
What applications have you seen within your ecosystem that you're really excited about, or some use cases that you've been like, wow, this maybe I didn't expect this, or I've been
Yeah.
waiting for this? Because I'm sure there's a lot of
Yep.
developers who are innovating probably very rapidly in this space.
100%. I think, we recently launched our own developer program. And like, I kid you not, within the first 7 days or like less than 7 days, we got like 300 plus applications.
Wow.
Yeah. So
From
like,
devs, and that's impressive.
yeah. And like, we barely even got a chance to market it. Like, this might be the first time I'm talking about the developer program, and the word got out. And I think there's like two reasons, right? One, the chat.com example that we took, right? I think everyone inherently knows domains have value. It's not a net zero value asset, right? It will never go down to zero. There'll always be a buyer for chat.com for whatever, money, but there's some money there. So the biggest use case we're seeing right now, for what it's worth, is spot trading, right? Um, in Web2, spot trading costs a lot of money. It takes
super inefficient.
Yeah, super inefficient, 20% fees, takes like a few days, weeks, sometimes even months to settle, getting USD into your bank account. So spot trading, we have an order book out on the DOMA protocol side that developers can use. So we're seeing a lot of folks take this order book, run with it. As soon as you put an order in, it goes to every major Web3 marketplace. So that's super attractive because both as a user, now you're getting a lot of exposure, right? I have a domain, instead of just being in one marketplace, now it can be in 10 marketplaces at the same time. But that's like, I think what everyone's used to, right? Because that's been the bread and butter of the industry for many years now. Exchanges, yeah. But I think one of the biggest use cases that we're seeing that was like, kind of fun is fractionalization. And even the registrars are really excited about it. So a lot of our registrar partners are reaching out to us and asking like, hey, when fractionalization, how does that work? How can we do this? And the reason is like, there are people who buy fancy domains like chat.com. I'm never going to put $2 million with the same name, but I'll put like $100 towards chat.com, right? It's easy enough.
I love that. Like if you had friends.com and you got all your friends and you're like, hey guys,
let's buy
get friends.com together.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. Now you've democratized the access through Web3, right? Because you can buy like this much, that much, whatever is your appetite for risk and reward, right? So I think fractionalization is something we're seeing a lot of traction. People who own premium domains are willing to fractionalize it because they have a lot of equity tied up into the domain that they're willing to give up for the right price. A lot of people are like, now like starting to speculate. Do I want to get in at this price? Is this the right place for me? So, and the registrar partners are happy because now they have a bigger pool of users. They can sell more shares of chat.com than they'll ever sell chat.com. That's because there's only one.
That's honestly so fascinating. And it probably helps with getting the price right because the market itself can balance out how much something people are really willing to pay for it in real time because they essentially can get a piece of it at any given time.
Exactly. And this is the innovation that happened to real estate stocks, right? Real time market-driven price discovery is the only solution. You can like speculate all day long, it's worth this, that. Like you said, right? Maybe someone thinks it's worth 3 million, someone thinks it's worth 30 million. Let's find out.
Yeah,
that's how markets work.
Actually work.
Yeah, more advantages why crypto is amazing. Market discovery on price speculation.
What do you think like GoDaddy or like these other kind of like major providers, are they threatened by this kind of thing? Do you think there's something that they would adopt themselves? Sort of, I guess, what's your opinion on the existing players that are there?
Yeah. I don't think they're threatened, right? So, we feel like everyone should succeed in this equation, right? At the end of the day, I trust Namecheap with all my domains, right? So all my domains are with Namecheap because they're an amazing, company, right? All the protocol is white labeled in some ways, for the lack of a better word, for Namecheap, right? So the assets are still offered by Namecheap, right? So if you want to tokenize your domain, you still go to Namecheap, or will, go to a registrar like Namecheap and tokenize your domains.
So you're like the infrastructure, basically.
So we're the infrastructure player. So they tap into the fees from sales, all of that, right? So I think it's actually a revenue positive endeavor for them. They're getting better distribution, more revenue options, new apps. So obviously, there's a little bit of a mental hurdle to kind of unlock new, ways of thinking about revenue monetization that comes in. But I think we're now seeing so much traction across the board on all registrars that they're actually super excited. I have a new product that I can offer to my users. It's actually better for the users, better for them, and it helps them kind of diversify their portfolio.
And if you want to have the latest product features,
yes,
so you don't want to get left behind.
No.
So I think that's fascinating, because you're right, it does kind of raise all tides and everybody wins, which is really cool. And I think it is, like you mentioned, a bridge between Web 2 and Web 3, because everyone knows what domains are, but being able to fractionalize it and tokenize it is a huge innovation.
Right.
Were you guys the first movers in this space within Web3? Are there other companies doing this?
Yeah, I think we are the only mover in this space.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who've done great job in Web3, naming, right? But the goal was Web3 naming, just domains were the IP address naming. They tried to do it for blockchains, ENS, But I think we're the first person that I know that takes the approach. Domains already exist. Let's just make them work on all infrastructure. Let's just evolve the domains to work on Web3 because, hey, we already trust them on Web2.
You mentioned on-chain DNS. Why is that a game changer?
Yeah. I think programmability. It all comes down to programmability, right? Let's say you are using a smart contract on a domain, but you can't actually access the DNS, change how you access it, who has access to it, then it still works. Don't get me wrong. You can still do everything, including fractionalization, without it. But I think, again, it kind of opens up this innovation in a way that has never been done. So for example, you have a domain, can you rent out a single CNAME to someone, right? So you say hey, you own only this particular subdomain CNAME. So you can now set it using, on-chain methods. So if you present me a synthetic token, you get the subdomain CNAME. No one else can overwrite it, including the owner of the domain. So it's this contract level, programmability that's very unique. And I think that is just it's never been done because there's no way to do it in Web2. And those are kind of the crazy use cases that will change how people think about domains. Hey, can I have a DAO where all the members can get different DNS accesses, roles, permissions, and even parking, right? Something like set my name server. Can that be model change through programmatic DNS access? So I think a lot of the focus for us is innovation and developer knobs that help you make better apps.
I should have asked this, I guess, first, but can you break down DNS, especially maybe for users who are not as technical and are watching this? And they're like, I want to get involved. I'm not sure if I know how to work with this technology.
Yep. No, I think that's, by the way, a great question. All of us get the blinders on because we've been in the industry.
Well, you're building it, right? So you got to talk to the developers.
And, all the founders come from the domain industry. So we've all been in the industry for so long. We just take things for granted. But DNS is kind of literally the core of our infrastructure, right? It's decentralized. There's no one single DNS server. All the Googles, Amazons of the world kind of run their DNS servers. It's a fairly decentralized system. So, if you've ever bought or sold a name, you go set you point your website to an IP address, right? So that's what I call a record or a CNAME record, right? So what you're doing is you're basically giving instructions on how certain resolution works. So now I can say, hey, what if I could put a wallet record? So when you try to send money to a domain, it actually goes into your Web3 wallet. Just like when I type in Amazon.com, it uses the A record or a CNAME record to send you to an IP address where Amazon is hosted. So that's what we're trying to do. And that's why programmable DNS is so important, because now sending money on Web3, receiving money on Web3 becomes no different from going to a web browser, and you have one trusted source. So what we do is we take the wallet records and we actually publish them on DNS. Now everyone around the world can send and receive money without having to think about blockchains, including AI agents or whoever.
That's fascinating. So if I want to send money to friends.com or something like that, I can just type in friends.com. I don't have to worry about their...
If they have a wallet, the money will go through.
That's fascinating. How do you track those different transactions?
We don't have to. That's the beauty of it. The transaction tracking will still remain on chain. But so like literally when you type in friends.com, you will find out if they have a wallet, what like chains they support, and the transaction will actually go like as planned on chain. So you'll still like originate the transaction, sign it on chain, but you don't have to remember 0x whatever addresses. Similarly, like friends.com or any other like website can publish that in their DNS records. So I always joke, I want to send money to charity. I want to send money to redcross.org and never have to worry about who got the money. So I'm still happy sending USDC, have it be on like on chain, but I don't want to send money to like a random address where I don't have the guarantee that the owner put it in. If you see a DNS record, you know the domain owner controls it. If Amazon.com has a wallet, you know Amazon put it in. No one else can.
That's fascinating. It's almost like in the way that they have emails, if someone's email is legit because it will have the actual website there versus, YouTube3.com or something.
Exactly.
People are used to fish by that all the time. And it's a huge way people lose money is they send things to the wrong people unknowingly.
Yeah. And it's worse on chain. What happens is like going back to like, who was building in this, right? So people were building these Web3 identifiers, or don't send money to an address, send money to this identifier. But the problem is anyone on earth can stand up an identifier, right? So you can, and I don't want to name companies, but there's 10 different companies offering the same dot whatever. Now, how do you know which one to use to send money? How do you know which one the owner chooses?
It's legit. Yeah.
You can't. But with a domain, you never have to think about it because one domain, one owner, always. So that's the beauty of it. There's no conflict resolution. There is no authenticity problem. There is no security problems because those are already solved.
So I want to go into the developer program a little bit. I read on Bazinga, and congratulations for being featured there, that you guys are launching this $1 million fund, and you talked about you had 300 applications already. What does that process look like? Like if someone's watching this, they're a developer, how do you pick? What does the funding structures look like? What are you hoping to gain from launching this?
Yeah. I think, like I said, we come from the industry. We are trying to solve a real problem. So what that means is these are like pain points we feel on a daily basis, being in the real domain industry, Web2 side, right? So what we did is we started compiling a list of ideas we want to kind of see in the world, right? So these are like use cases that solve existing problems, like really like pains that people or registrars are having, or these are like novel use cases that have never been possible until now. The value add that Web3 kind of brings to the table, right? So we started like publishing a lot of these ideas, and then we realized, man, we can't like do all of this internally, and we don't want to do it internally, right? Our focus is making sure that the bridge is fully functional. Every developer can trust it. So what we did is we created this like developers hub. We published all our docs. We published all the ideas.
Open sourced almost?
And it's all open sourced. It's all like open to public. Everything's on chain, by the way. All the data is kept on chain. all the docs, all
You're
the smart.
living what you're promoting.
Exactly, everything. So there is no centralized data anywhere. It's all on chain. So what we wanted to do was that, hey, we have all these SDKs, we have all these like smart contracts, we have all these ideas. What can we do to help you kind of take some of these ideas and run with it? And that's where like the DOMA Forge program came into existence.
Great name, by the way.
It's all Mark. Mark is like, he's our CMO, and man, he is phenomenal.
It's a great name.
Yeah. So we literally want to forge new ideas in this like program. So going back to your question, if you're a developer, just go to our forge.doma.xyz. You can apply there. We review applications like personally. We sit down, we get on a call with the developers, kind of align like, are they solving a problem that we can add value to? Whether it's, resources, go-to-market, partnerships, BD, engineering, product, design, anything we can do in addition to other resources we supply. Then depending on the idea team, we kind of make like a call, like, how much and how much we lean in. But the goal is to find like, the best teams out there, kind of give them all the resources they need to really solve these problems and have the full backing that, hey, we are here to support you on every step of your journey.
And that really helps build out the ecosystem, I'm sure, and you'll probably see more innovation by doing that. So you're really fostering an ecosystem of developers, which is ultimately going to help end users with things like the fractionalization that you mentioned, which directly benefits both the domain owners and potential investors, users. That's fascinating.
And, the ecosystem play is good because a lot of our investors want to find talented people, right? So I think for them to kind of have a pre-vetted idea, a pre-vetted team is also like a great like stepping stone, right? Because, we're very lucky. All of our investors have one core belief that the first principle thinking is important. You're building a tech startup, go after a big industry, solve a real problem, and make real revenue. And that's our goal, right? Go after a huge industry, solve a huge problem with real revenue. And they want to like have that like, show up in the developers too, right? They build real applications for real users solving like real problems. So I think it's a win-win situation for everyone, including, the teams that build in the ecosystem.
So what is your guys' specific advantage that you have in this? Why is this team, and you mentioned the experience, of course, but why do you think the time is now to do something like this?
Yeah, I think a lot of things are aligning around, why now, right? So obviously the team, having been in the industry for the past 20 years, they've kind of seen a few battle scars, which means, like when we talk to our partners on the Web2 side, like the registrars, we're not just shilling them a product, right? We're actually like listening to their pain. We felt the same pain and we're giving them a solution that like resonates with them. And then I think once you do that, then I think this like second wave of resurgence in crypto is also like on our side, right? And when I say second wave, I don't mean like the next like, boom cycle or anything. I mean the next like innovation cycle. So, at this cycle, we have more mature infrastructure. We have much more well thought out products. So we are actually ready, like, Robinhood announcements, all these things that are happening.
Yeah,
are
exciting stuff.
Exactly. They're reiterating that crypto is more mature and can go mainstream and provide actual benefits at this point. And then third, I think, there'll be the next TLD auctions in 2026, right? So
what does that mean?
Yeah, so in 2012 was the first time ICANN released new extensions. So .app, .cash, .fund, .finance, all were built during that time. One of our founders actually built like 300 of those.
Wow.
Exactly. So I don't think we'll do 300 next year, but our goal is to really work with the Web3 ecosystems like Solana to apply for .sol. So .sol that works in your web browser, just like a .com. So for us, like that timing is also important. A lot of like Web2 partners are like, oh, this is a great source of revenue, identity, innovation. So I think it's a win-win situation for us. The timing is aligning around like consumer reception, maturity of our infrastructure, Web3 infrastructure, and then the future potential by like having the next round of .sol and .whatever kind of come out that actually changes, how we like use domains.
So this is a question that I'm kind of having for a lot of different folks I've been interviewing, is that we're obviously moving to a more and more, arguably better or not better, but it's becoming a virtual world.
Yep.
Everyone is online 24/7.
Yep.
On Twitter, on the websites, on domains. What is the biggest value in holding events like this in person?
Yeah.
Like that you guys are doing today?
So I think digital world is important. Domains are digital real estate. So the value is only going to go up. But I do think, meeting in person has this like human unlock, if you will.
I love that term. I hope I can steal that from you.
Please do.
Human unlock. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I really like that.
Maybe I'm like a little old school or something, but I think the conversations like we are having, right? I think we could have done this digitally, but I think
have been the same at
it
all.
wouldn't have been the same. And I think I'll remember you. Hopefully, you'll remember me.
I will.
For a while because we met in person, right? So I think that, and then I think celebration, right? I always think like showing up at these events is a way to celebrate wins as a team, even failures, to be honest, right? Like you kind of share the battle scars, share all your news, share all your victories, wins, things that didn't work. So I think it's just like this human instinct to kind of group together, especially when we're going after something challenging. I think we're all in this together. Let's do it.
What do you wish that you knew when you started that you know now?
I feel like maybe the biggest thing that was a little surprise in some ways was, how receptive the Web2 folks were.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, because, you're like, oh, everyone thinks, this is too
This is
scary.
scary,
It's a scam. It's too scary. So, we went in with like kid gloves, right? We're like, oh, we need to like play it down, dumb it down. But, think about this, right? People who are speculating on domains, they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for 20 years. And I think the thing that I would have gone with is, what we do right now is be super transparent. Tell them why you're doing that and why it solves the problem. Don't worry about whether you're using crypto or AI or whatever, right? Tech is tech. Till the time you're solving a real problem, I think people resonate with that very well. And I think that's why we've succeeded, on the Web2 side, because we were like, so like, will this work? Will this not work? But I think as we kept talking to people, they're like, no, this is good. I want to have that problem be solved. And I think that's been super fun.
That honestly is one of the best explanations I've ever heard of that. Like tech is tech, and it's like we all want to drive a cool car. We want the ATM to work. Most people don't care how the car is built or how the ATM works. I heard like an analogy, like it could be a guy with a bag of money inside the ATM.
I love it.
And if it works, people wouldn't care. They wouldn't care.
Someone counts cash and gives it to you.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
So, if it works, it works. And tech is tech. And for a consumer, it's more about what they can get out of it versus what actually is built on it. And of course, for the developers, it's important so that they can understand how to build the products that people use. But like we discussed earlier, it's actually about the end goal.
Use.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think is the biggest thing that could maybe increase the growth of the industry overall? Because you mentioned, I think I read on the website that it's maybe $360 billion, something like that.
Yep.
What do you think could be the biggest thing that will catalyze this growth? And do you think it's going to be slow and steady? Do you think there's going to be a breakthrough moment where it really takes off? You mentioned this has been going on for a long time. How do you foresee that future looking?
Yeah, I do think there'll be a step function that will happen pretty soon. I think, like we were talking about the why now, right? There's a lot of like things happening, one obviously just coming on chain will be that like, moment, right? I don't think it will be like you come on chain and boom, everything's like, fixed, right? But I think the acceleration once you come on chain will be like kind of mind boggling, right? And that's where the growth will come. So think about it, like today, if you trade a name, I don't know if you've ever tried to buy a name off of the secondary market.
It takes like bidding. It's an auction.
Yeah, it takes an auction. You have to find a broker, pay like 20% fees, and then, the buyer pays the fees, then the seller puts it in escrow, and then you like wait for the escrow to settle, then you wait for your registrar to send you money, which takes another 2 to 4 weeks.
It's very non-transparent a
Right.
lot of the time, so you don't know where you are necessarily at any
Exactly.
stage in the
And
process.
yep.
It's
So
the same thing as like buying a social media handle.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like this guy got
could be scammed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He says he owns this thing and like, you know, it's a great handle and it hasn't been active for 10 years.
Yep.
And you're like, what the hell? Like there's got to be a better way to get this
Yeah.
handle.
No, I completely agree. And that is the problem with domains. That's like most of the industry. That's what the bread and butter is, right? So you can't prove ownership. You don't have trust. Like literally, Fred has examples of like 10 different brokers reaching out to him about the same domain and saying they're the only agent that is approved to work on the same domain and they're working with the owner.
Well, I wonder.
Exactly.
Doesn't quite sound legit to me.
No. Yeah. So
that's like the equivalent of like, I'm the guy.
It literally is. Trust me, bro.
Yeah. Like, I got it for you. And you're like, well, I have 9 other people telling
me the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the point I'm making is, you know, with coming on chain, you'll eliminate a lot of unknowns. So before we even unlock innovation on top of domains, that itself will start like shooting the hockey stick. But then once people have that aha moment, right, the value add moment in their brain. So think like end user, forget blockchains, forget everything. That's just the aha moment. As a user, I'm like, if it's on DOMA, I trust it. And then you are like, oh, since it worked there, what else can I do here? And that's when the DeFi innovation just like takes over. So I think it will have this like hockey stick moment once like the first cohort of domain owners have the aha moment after being on chain.
And what do you think, because you mentioned DeFi, and I think that's really interesting. And obviously we had DeFi summer, now DeFi is huge. It's growing all the time. Stable coins are booming. And you mentioned fractionalization. What do you think about AI in this space? Is there an AI component that people should be aware of, especially with like LLMs blowing up? Is there any kind of overlap there?
Yeah, no, I think for sure. You know, I was actually talking to quite a few projects about like AI. So Coinbase team has this like open source project called X402. So for like, you know, non-technical people, like, you know, everyone's seen that 404 error, right? You go to a page.
All the time.
Exactly.
All the time.
So what 404 says is, I don't know what you're doing. I don't have anything for you.
Yeah, and it's surprising how many companies have that, a link somewhere that goes to that, even big companies.
Right. So what they want to do is kind of build out 402, which is proof of payment required. So you'll go to a page, and before you access the page, and again, I'm not thinking like, you know, you and I, right? Think like AI crawlers, AI bots, AI agents. So think you're scraping a site, you know, the website might be like, hey, before you scrape my data, I want a proof of payment. You'll submit an on-chain transaction, pay the money on Base, and boom, now you have access. Or the opposite, I have an AI agent. AI agents only work on Web 2. You have to host them on a physical server to call inference, right? Oh, I'm about to call, you know, chatgpt.com/API/whatever. Proof of payment required. Now, that's the beauty of Web3, right? Automation, self like signatures. So AI bots can have like their own like agents, and they can have their own domains, they can have their own keys. It just like fits the whole thing seamlessly. So now you can have an AI agent that can request payment on chain, proof of it on chain, and then the person who made the payment can get access to that agent. All of them have their own identity, their keys. None of us have to think about it. That's why we use domains. But the whole cycle of collection of data, training of data, payment of the agent can all be done on chain and abstracted away from the user through like simple like domain, you know, mechanisms. So AI companies have been like really like looking at like AI domains for like identity, for agents or, you know, crawlers. And I think that will just keep going up. And then, you know, once you do that, you can start thinking about monetization, right? In DeFi, right? You have an agent, you can see all its history of payments it's received.
Make sure it's real.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can say like, oh, this is a good agent. It's generating a lot of revenue.
It's like you're thinking about like a real estate agent.
It is basically.
It's like it's had a lot of houses sold. It's good. You can see the proof of progress.
Yeah. And then what that means is now you have proof of progress, but then you also have like, oh, this agent is raising money to train on more data. And you're like, well, I want to back that horse. So I don't know what people are going to build, but I do think putting the agents, again, and agents have to be on both Web 2 and Web 3. Putting them on Web 2 and Web 3 together will make like a lot of sense from a DeFi perspective.
When you think about the vast majority of developers are Web 2 developers, how do we kind of convince them to come build in Web 3?
Yeah, I don't want to convince them to come on Web 3. See, that's what I'm saying. Web 3 is a tool. Tech is tech, going back to it, right? So I personally think all of our RFPs, like requests for proposals, ideas we want to see developers build, start with a why. We can get into the what and the how in a second. Let's start with the why. Why are you doing this? If the why resonates, everything else is tech. So we start with the why and then the what and the how. Like, what do you need to do to actually solve this problem? And how is when Web3 comes in? How do you do it? Oh, you use the smart contract. So what we do is we take a lot of Web3 systems and we kind of abstract them away for general developers. Oh, you use data. You don't need to index our contracts. Here's a subgraph with all the data you need. Oh, you want to submit this transaction? Just call this API with your signatures and we'll do it for you. So you don't need to worry about how do I submit transactions on Solana or Ethereum or on DOMA. I just like call an SDK or an API and my job is done. But I think I will still say our focus is on the why and the how, and then the what is where the blockchains come in. And the more we can abstract it away, the more we can make it easy to use, I think we'll attract Web 2 developers.
I think the industry right now, and we're talking about ETH and Solana, but it's very fragmented. I mean, even ETH has a lot of L2s.
Yep.
The liquidity is fragmented. There's different blockchains that don't work together.
Yep.
And then, of course, we have the giant in the room, which is Bitcoin.
Yep.
Do you see like a future with maybe like Bitcoin domains or somehow building with Bitcoin into this somehow? Or do you think that's more hype? Or I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Liquidity is a problem. There's no way around it, sadly, right now. Interop was like a little bit of a trend for a while, and I think it's simmering out.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, not simmering out, like people are doing really good work, by the way.
Because the narrative just isn't.
Yeah, the narrative is not there. So they're not like pitching it like, this is the only reason why we're doing this, right? So I think what I'm trying to say is that interop is never going to go away. But the liquidity, again, going back to, I'll give you an example. If you create an order in our DOMA order book, you get that order like put in multiple marketplaces. We go aggregate it over multiple.
You're getting best price, best liquidity.
Exactly. So and I think that's going to happen more and more of it. Going back to your previous question around like Web 2 developers, I think we'll just give them the right mechanisms. Hey, tap into this aggregator, tap into this liquidity, finder. Same with domain owner. Don't worry about which chain you're on. Find what you're trying to do. Oh, you want to do lease to own? Let's just move your domain to Solana. You don't even know you're on Solana. Because as a user, all you care about is, can I get like a lease to own done? That's it. I don't know the right answer. I think the Web3 industry is moving at a very fast pace, which is why I love it. So we'll solve that problem. But in the meantime, the focus is bring the users to the right chains at the right time and where they see value.
Where should people come to learn more? What do you think is sort of the biggest thing that people should take out of this interview? So, the title of the interview, what should people really take away that you would like them to know?
Yeah, I just want to say think about anytime you use a domain, think about it a little more. I think you'll realize you cannot think of the internet without domains, period. From your friend's portfolio to where you shop, how you find directions, where you buy stuff, everything's behind domains. So if you're a user, you're a developer, you're a Web2 partner, it's all the same. Just go to doma.xyz. If you're a user, go to start.doma.xyz. Just learn about the protocol. See if it actually solves any of the problems you have. And I'm pretty confident it will. And just that's your journey. Start.doma.xyz. Start your journey there. Find where you want to go with this protocol, and I'm sure we'll meet you there.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to you because you are probably the best person that I've met with that can explain tech. Like just the way that you break it down is extremely insightful.
Yeah.
And I think our audience is going to be absolutely fascinated. And I really encourage you guys to check this out. If you're building, if you have a website, which I know you guys do, you should be using this and definitely check it out yourself because tech is tech. And this is the future.
Likewise, Zach, and it was a pleasure talking to you. And I will say, like, you had like the best, most mindful questions. So I appreciate you talking to me.
Thank you so much.
Likewise.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not something Gen Z is afraid of.
If you want to survive, you got to build a hive.
No, we do not understand.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Rebecca's Gen Z Media House.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.